Welcome to Greg's Reel Revival. Today we are going to be servicing a 1980s model Quantum 1310 MG. Picked this one up off eBay. As you can tell, it's in really good shape. We're just going to take it apart, show you how to service it, and we'll get it put back together. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start with the magnetic side here. There's really not a whole lot going on here. But we'll show you what's in there and how to service it. We're just going to start with these screws, and I'm just going to kind of lay them out on these paper towels, kind of in the same spots where they came from, so when I go to put them back in, I'll know where they go. Okay. Main thing on these is make sure you have a screwdriver that fits the slot in the screw really well, so you don't tear up your screws. Take this front one out here, and then we'll look under there and see what we got. All right, so lift this off. Nothing underneath there. There's a little clicker that makes the noise when you're adjusting the magnetic resistance. Looks like we've got a little gasket here. It just comes off. And then here we've got, this is what adjusts it. So that comes off here. And then underneath it we've got that little contraption, and then we've got that little spring there, and that's all we have on this side. I'm going to clean up some of this grease and we'll get that put together real quick, because there is absolutely nothing to see here. Grab a paper towel, might work a little better. Alright. I'm just going to wipe any of that grease out. I've had this reel apart and kind of cleaned it up a little bit, so there's not going to be a whole lot in here, but I do want to show you guys what we're looking at. Okay, it's got that cleaned up. I will take this gasket here. It's a pretty stiff gasket. You don't have to be super duper careful with it, but just wipe off anything that might be on there. All right. Okay. So the spool does not come out from this side, it comes out from the other side. Okay, if you were gonna service the reel guide or the line guide, which I will do, but not on camera, I have a video on my channel about that, you would have to keep this open so you could take that E-clip off and get all this stuff out, but you can watch that on my channel, okay? So here's what we got. We got that right there. First thing, let's put this gasket in there. This is the first thing that goes in there. All right. So, quick little trick with this. You'll see when that is on there. Come on, Greg. This is going to have to start right here and go all the way around. So you want to make sure it can do that. This can go this way, or it can go this way. If you don't have it on there correctly, it's going to inhibit how far this can spin. So, let's see. Looks like, all right, that's in there correctly now. So it would. Okay, so that's backwards. That won't be able to twist all the way over. So we just need to take this, turn it around a little bit. And let's see how we do. All right. Let's see here. That looks, all right, that's. There we go. Can get that on there the right way. I think that's the right way there. Yeah, we're going to put the side plate on and we'll make sure here. So I'm just going to hold that on and see. All right, see, I have that backwards because it should go all the way over here, but I've got a stopping spot right there. And it goes, let's see. Nope, that is correct. Okay, so here's the part of the dial we're looking at. So I have full range of motion. It stops right here, and then it goes all the way up to 200 there, so we're on the right way there. I am. All right, so I'm just going to lift this off. I'm not going to change that at all. Then I'm going to slip this gasket back on. All right, now we know we have these where they need to be. So we're just going to put those back together. That's the main thing with reel repairs. Just be patient. You know, you may get something on there a little bit backwards. It may not quite work, but you know, you've got time. Just go back in there and redo it, and you will figure it out. You can always look up, you know, pull the schematic on it. There's like a reelschematics.com, or if you want, you can just look up, you know, quantum 1310 MG schematic, and it'll pull that up for you, and then you can just look in there and see where all your parts go. So this is all real scary at first. What I would suggest doing is, maybe if you're not comfortable with it, get a older reel. Maybe buy your old reel for $5 or $10 off eBay, or maybe at a garage sale, and pull the schematic on it and just kind of play with it. Just kind of pull it apart, see where everything goes, and then you're comfortable with the way it works, and you'll be good to go. It's kind of nerve-wracking if you got really nice reels and you've never worked on a reel before and you just start tearing it apart. It can be kind of nerve-wracking, and that's understandable. I just snug those up when I first put them in there, and then I'm just kind of go around and tighten them up. And then we'll be good to go on that side. As we mentioned, everything works. So we're good to go. Okay, now we're going to start on the business side of the reel. First thing we're going to do, take off this. No, first thing we have to do is take off that one right there. Change my bits real quick. Alright, get that out of there. Get this little clip out, set that right over there. Then we'll take off this nut cap. Goes right there. All right, there's a little C-clip right here that I have to take off to get this handle off. Gonna take this little clip here. And pull right off there. Set that up there. Now that handle will come off. And we're just gonna spin off this star drag adjuster. Set that right there. Now we're gonna go ahead and take out, let's go ahead and just pull this off with these two thumb screws here. These thumb screws do not come out all the way. So we're just loosening those up so this side of the reel will come off, okay? Alright, so there that is. There's the inside of it. So the gears are in this piece right here, so we're going to get to that here in a minute. Alright, so here we have, again, just some extra oils and greases. And then our spool will pull right out of there. Okay, nothing too exciting. There is a bearing back here with a clip holding it in there. I will show you that on the other side plate. These are the stiffest bearing retainers I've ever had to deal with, so they're really hard to get out and back in. But I'll show you on the other one how to do that, and you can do that on your reel if you want. Any other brand of reel I've worked on, those are a lot less stiff, so they're a lot easier to work with. These are pretty tough. Okay, so on this frame, I'm just going to take a clean Q-tip. Everything in there looks really, really clean. And I'm just going to show you that, look right there. That's clean. It's all good. So there's nothing more that we need to do. Okay, all that's clean. And like I said, I'm going to service this line guide. And you can see the video on my channel on how to do that. Okay, let's break this thing open and see what we got. Just set that spool right over there for now. These two screws here hold this plate on, and that's what is covering the gears. These screws do come out, so if they fall out, don't be surprised. There that one is. And there's that. Okay. There's those two screws. We're going to set those right there. We'll put that back on in there because that's actually where it goes. All right. And I'll just set that. The way to kind of get this off is you'll just hold this post here, that main shaft, and just kind of pull up on that. There's the inside of that cover. Not a whole lot in there, a little bit of extra spare grease there that we'll just get off with this. You can see, like I said, the rest of it's really clean. I've already cleaned in there. This is the spool tensioner. We'll take that off and show you there's really nothing in there at all. Okay. The spool shaft goes through that little hole, and when you tighten this up, it puts a little more tension on the spool and slows it down. So what I would do is, if you're doing yours for the first time, is open this up, kind of get the Q-tip, clean that out real good. Make sure that's cleaned out, and clean that out with the Q-tip real good, and you'll be good to go. Alright, so we're just gonna put this back on here. Just shout out to all those people that make this look easy on their reel videos, because I just can't make it look easy. Alright, here we go. Here's the inside of your reel. Okay, first thing we always do is take these two pinion yoke springs off, because they tend to disappear, and they look pretty good size, but they're hard to find if you're looking for them. All right, here's a spacer. Here's two tension washers. Pull those off and I'll show them to you. They've got a slight curve in them. Okay. So you don't want those to be spooned together like that. You want them to either be like this, or you want them to be like this. Okay, so you want to create some space with those washers. What that does is, when you tighten down your star drag, it pushes on those, and it's able to create drag on your spool. Okay? Alright, we'll clean all those up here in a bit. Okay, now let's look. First thing we'll do is we're going to take off our main gear, and what's going to come off with it also is the anti-reverse. You'll see here, you go this way, and you're fine. If you need to like set the hook and that causes the spool to go backwards, that locks in, and I'll show you how that works here in just a second. So we're going to got this off. That's the main gear. We'll take this drag stack off here in just a second. All right. So this is how your anti-reverse works. This is a right-handed reel, so if we're reeling forward, there's no pressure on that at all. It's just as smooth as it can be. These two brass little fingers here, when I go to reel this backwards, or when I go to set the hook, they just create just enough tension on this piece to cause this point here to catch in one of those little notches right there. So if I pull that backwards, see, it locks in right there. Go forward, those brass fingers are riding on there, go backwards, it locks right into there. So that's how your anti-reverse works on this one. So we'll pull that off also, and the anti-reverse will come off with it. There's not a lot of room in there, so there we go. I'm going to kind of pull all of that off. There's the anti-reverse. There's a little spacer right there, and then there's our click ratchet. All right. And you can see there's nothing going on here. So nothing else we need to do. Everything's really good and clean. Now let's take off. It's hard to see on this one because that's a dark gray, but here's what we call your pinion yoke, and here's your pinion gear. Okay, so those just fit in right there. On this, the way you'll know you have it in the right way, and this is kind of hard to see on camera sometimes, but this side is perfectly flat. That side goes up. This side has kind of some you call them ramps right back here. They're kind of angled, and that kind of pushes your gear up, so when you cast, you don't your spool doesn't spin. Okay, and you can, like I said, they're hard to see, but you can see they're just like little ramps or little diagonal portions of the piece. Those go down. Okay, all right, and that is all there is to it. Okay, this is for your worm gear. So like I said, we're not going to do anything with that. But that right there, really, really clean. You'll see that there's not a whole lot to it. Now, let's show you something. This is what I was going to show you. There's that bearing, and there's that bearing clip. I'm going to show you how to get that out real quick, and then you'll know how to do both of them. This one's just easier to access. All right, I've got just this little pick from Harbor Freight. Works really well. Actually, I think with this one I had to use my screwdriver because that clip is so stiff. Let me see if I can. Yeah, there we go. Got one corner of it out. Put your finger over that when you do that, because those are really stiff, and like I said, they can just take off on you and shoot across the room, and they're really hard to find. All right, so now you're just gonna take this bearing out. And actually I can get it at the back side here. So I'm just going to kind of push it out with this bearing spinner. There you go. All right, and there it is. Okay. Now for my bearings, what I will do, and I've already done this one because I've already cleaned this reel. I would take this and I would soak that in some people use gasoline, some people use Coleman fuel. You can also use acetone, whatever you want to use. And that just gets all the all the dirts and oils and greases out of there. And then, you know, once you clean all this up, you can take this, put it on your bearing spinner. Find my oil real quick. And then I'm just going to take a drop of oil, one more. And then I'm just going to spin that. Make sure that oil gets down in there. Now let's go ahead and put that back in there. Again, you can put it in by hand, or you can actually use the bearing spinner to kind of help you center it. There it is, right back in there. We'll take this clip. Again, I'm gonna probably put the bottom of it in there, and then I'm gonna pull in each side. Let's see what I can do with this. With either this pick or with that screwdriver. Yeah, I'm gonna use a screwdriver. I just need something more stiff with this. Like I said, all your other brands, they aren't a problem. They generally can be dealt with really, really easy. All right, that side's in. We'll go over here. We'll just push on that side. It's in as well. All right, so there we go. That bearing's back in there. You can test it. Spins real nice and easy. So we're good to go. All right. I'm going to get all this cleaned up real quick, and then we will come back and we'll show you how to put it back together. All right, we are back. Here is the drag stack. We did not take this apart. On the main gear, here's how it came out. All right, so this is what it looks like sitting on the frame. When this comes out, you just have this metal cover goes on top. You have a drag washer underneath it. Then you have your main gear. There's kind of a deeper side and a shallow side. The deeper side goes up. There's your shallow side. Here's your other drag washer, your smaller drag washer. and then we have the bottom plate here. This side goes up towards the bottom plate, that goes underneath it, all right? And then we'll have this spacer, then we'll have the click ratchet and the anti-reverse. So we'll show you how to do that right now. All right, first thing I'm gonna do, okay, we've got that washer in there again, been cleaned and oiled, so we're good to go. I will put just 1 drop of oil on top of that. Right there. This is gonna go right down in there. You'll see how nicely that spins. So, nothing on top of here. Same thing, I'll just take a Q-tip, clean out there. But there's, I mean, it's perfectly clean. The shaft, perfectly clean also. Now before I will tell you what I will do, I'll just put a drop or 2 of oil right along here. So that'll help it spin freely. I don't like to put grease on my spool shafts. I feel like it slows everything down, so I just choose not to do it. Okay, what will I do here? Not a whole lot. These pieces all move, so if there's anything touching the reel, I'll kind of oil just on the pieces that have friction. Kind of get some oil back in behind there just to help those function, okay? And you can kind of push that button a little bit and see where those places are, and then just put oil in those places, okay? All right, now first thing let's do, let us put our anti-reverse on and our click ratchet, okay? You'll see there's those 2 fingers right there. Kind of press those, not real hard, but just kind of press them so they're kind of sticking together there. And then you're going to kind of see if we can get that on there. Okay, so that sits like that, okay? That's the first thing that is going to go on here, okay? That little silver post is where that anti-reverse sits. So we'll put that on there, and then see if we can get it. Yep, on that little post right there. Okay, that little post there prevents it from coming up off that, spinning off that click ratchet. So again, just like we saw before we took it apart, going forward, no problems. You spin backwards, it catches right there. Okay. Next thing that goes on is this little spacer right here. So we're going to put that on. And we're just going to set that down for a second. Because now we're going to put on our pinion yoke and our pinion gear. Okay, we just need to put a little bit of grease in these ridges right here. So I just take a little paintbrush and I just paint a little bit in there. I don't get it real heavy. You saw when I took that reel apart, even though I don't put very much of grease at all in here, you saw that there was still just a tiny bit that was inside that case. Okay, so we don't need much. It's probably plenty. All right, now again, look on your pinion gear. That looks like the flat side. That's the side that has the little ramp things to it. So this side goes down. This pinion gear is going to sit just like this. The gear part has to go up because it meshes with the main gear, which also meshes with the line guide gear. Okay, so we're going to put this right here. Make sure that. All right. And now I'm kind of getting everything a little cockeyed here. That's all right. All right. Again. All right. One more time. We'll get that back on there. All right, there we go. Got that on there again. Working fine. Ramp side goes down. Pinion gear points up. All right. Now we're getting there. So pinion gear goes over those two posts right there. And that just sits down right there. All right. Now we're ready for the main gear. Here's our little spacer. All right, so like we're talking about, this, let me get my drag grease here. All right, here it is. Okay, these washers, I believe that may be a Carbon-Tex washer, so I'm just going to put a little bit of drag washer grease on there. You'll notice I don't put a whole lot on there, just enough to kind of make it shiny. Same thing for this little one here. Put just a tiny bit right there. Okay, so those are ready to go. So top of my main gear is going to be the drag washer. I'm going to put that piece on, flip it over. This is actually the underneath side right now. Put that drag washer in there, and then that. Okay, so that's how that's going to go. Now we've got to put a little bit of grease between the main gear teeth. Again, I just kind of paint it so it, like I said, if you don't hit every single tooth, don't lose sleep, because these gears do mesh with each other and they're not all the same size, so they do end up sharing grease. So yeah, don't get super concerned about it. All right, so this part goes down, and when we put this on here, it's going to mesh with the pinion gear right there. All right, and then it's also going to mesh with the line guide gear right there. So when you turn this, everything spins. Okay, that's really nice and smooth. Okay, so now we need to put on the cover. Tell you what we're going to do real quick. Before we put that cover on, we're going to put on these tension washers. We'll just make sure. I like putting them on like this one. The belly's going to go, the curved part's going to go down. And I'm just going to set that on there. There it goes. And on this one, I'm going to make sure the curved part or the belly of it goes up. Okay. Next thing we're going to put on is just this spacer right here. All right. So there is the inside of our reel. Okay. Next thing we have to remember before we put the cover back on is put these springs back on. Now sometimes it's difficult to line up these holes with these springs. So what I do is I'll just take this works on Abu reels too, or whatever kind of reel you have. Break that in half. Just gonna stick that down inside that spring. And then we can stick that down inside that spring. That does two things for us. It helps us align this side case, but it also makes sure that those springs stay in the proper position while we're closing this up. Okay. Kind of cheat on this first one. Kind of look underneath there the best I can. All right. We're right here just a second ago. Let me see if we can finagle this side in there. There we go. All right. So we know everything's aligned there. What we're going to do is we're just going to press that down. You'll see that's got a nice, really good seal all around there. And then, yeah, and we'll take this. I like to just dip it in a little bit of this reel grease. That helps me hold these little bitty screws. Okay, get that one put in there. All right, that's screwed in there. Take this one out. Put that one in there. All right, now we're good to go. Next thing we do, I already put a couple of drops of oil on that spool shaft. So now we're just going to take this. Spool goes right through that bearing. And now we're just going to softly set this down here. All right, now if that's not going on real quick, just kind of, spin that a little bit and you'll see how nicely that spins. All right, so we got that. You'll see really nice seam all the way around. All right, that little spacer fell out, not a biggie. We'll just put that back in. So really good seam all the way around. Now we'll just tighten up these thumb screws. All right, nice and snug. They don't have to be super hard on there. All right, next thing we're going to take our star drag. We're just going to get that aligned on there. See how easy that's spinning? That pretty much tells you that it is not cross threaded. If you get that on there and it starts not going on easy, immediately stop because it's probably cross threaded. And you don't want that. All right, next thing we have between the star drag and the handle is this little tension washer. That goes right there. And this handle goes on. If you'll remember, we had that little C-clip. I think maybe, yeah, I'm lucky enough that went on there. Wipe that a little bit of grease off the handle. All right, there's our handle. Let's put the handle nut on real quick. Looks like it's really, yeah, how nicely that's spinning. Okay, that reel is good to go. Okay, now we're going to put on our little, I think this is our nut retainer here. You'll see that fits perfectly. Sometimes you'll have to adjust that nut to get it to go, but that fit really, really nicely in there. I think I'm gonna, let's see, try to screw that in there. All right, there it is. It's your Quantum 1310 MG, circa 1984 actually. So there it is, in great shape. If you're looking for an inexpensive reel, you can always go to eBay, find one, and order it and bring it home, and you can see that thing is just, it's spinning perfect. That reel, when I've had it out, casts great. So there you have it, the Quantum 1310 MG. Okay, if you are looking to get your reels serviced, wintertime is a great time to do it. Maybe not quite as much fishing where you are. Email me at gregsreelrevival@gmail.com and I can get you a quote. Please like and subscribe to the channel. I think we're at 48 viewers now. We're still pretty low. We'd like to get that number up. So like, subscribe, turn on the little bell, notification bell, so it'll tell you when I get videos. And until then, we will see you next time. Thank you all. All right, for those of you who were watching very closely, when that brass spacer fell out, one of our tension washers fell out, but that's an easy fix. Just had to take the handle off and put those two pieces back on there. And the reel is, again, you'll see, working absolutely flawlessly. Got good drag on it. I can tighten that down. And I mean, I can barely, I mean, I can push it, but I mean, not much. It's got really good drag on it, more than you would ever need for bass fishing. So, put it back together. Reel is good. Thank you all again for watching.